All right, so this is going to be your weekly motivation video, and it's on the topic of feeling uninspired or going through a dry spell. What do you do to get out of that? And this came about because I was having a conversation with an Active Melody site member recently, and that person was asking me, what do I do to overcome, feeling uninspired? Like when that happens, what do I do to get out of that? And I thought that's a good topic for a video. And it's something that happens to everybody, any artist of any kind, whether you're a painter or a musician or a poet, or if you're creating something, you're going to feel uninspired at some point. And it's frustrating. The first thing that I would say to that is deadline. So I wrote down deadline. I wrote down 3 things. And so we're going to talk about those 3 things. So first is deadline. And deadline sounds weird because you think, well, what does a deadline have to do with inspiration or feeling like a dry spell? Well, it forces inspiration. And that's the thing, like inspiration isn't just sometimes it is, where it just magically falls out of the sky and you just got this thing that you didn't expect. But you can't sit around and wait for that. You'll be waiting a long time. And I was recently listening to an interview with John Lennon, and he mentioned that he would go through periods of, many years where he just wasn't feeling inspired. But having a deadline, having a studio date where they had to do a recording, all of a sudden you had to there was a line in the sand and you had to meet that. And so I have that with Active Melody. Every Friday I have a new lesson that I have to put out, and I have to write all the material. So jam tracks or guitar compositions, I have to create. And it's a hard thing to do, and it took me a long time to get into the flow of it. But I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. And even still, there will be some weeks where I just don't, it's Wednesday and I still don't have an idea of what I'm going to do for Friday. And that's frustrating when that happens. And I'll explain what I do to get out of that in the next step. But I realize some of you are saying, well, wait a minute, deadline, okay, I'm learning how to play guitar. I don't have a deadline, so how does it work for me? Well, I do have one solution for you that can definitely help relating to deadline, and that is the Active Melody Site Member Challenge. So that's something we do every month, and we've been doing it for many years now. And it's just a lot of fun. I pick a topic at the beginning of the month, and you create a video and you share it, and we all comment on it, and it's just a really good way to interact with each other, but it's also a great way to showcase kind of where you're at. And we're all kind of doing the same thing. That's the cool thing about it. And there's no negativity allowed. So if you're interested in that, you can go to activemelody.com, go to the forum, which you'll see a link to, and then go to the news and announcements forum, which will be the top one. In the top section of that, you'll see the latest site member challenge. But we do them every month. Last month, we had over 100 submissions from people all around the world just submitting videos of themselves. And I supplied a jam track and everybody jammed over. It's just a lot of fun. So check that out if you're interested in that kind of thing. If that's not your thing, then make a deadline for yourself, something, whether it be finishing a song that you're working on or something, but hold yourself to something. And even maybe it's an open mic where you have to go perform it somewhere. I know that we're in a lockdown now, or with quarantines and all that stuff where we can't do that, but that's going to be opening up soon. So try and hold yourself to some kind of a deadline. The second thing is listen. That's a big, big one for me. So that goes back to what when I said it's Wednesday and I have no idea, I sit down and I listen to music. And I'm not talking about stuff that I already know, like old albums that I'm familiar with. I'm talking about something new that really does spark something in me. And the best format for that, for me, for discovering something new, is Spotify. And I realize there's Pandora, there's Apple Music, there's a lot of these streaming services. But I love Spotify because they have a Discover Weekly. And what that is it recommends things to me every Monday. I get this new playlist auto-generated by Spotify, but it's really smart because it knows what I like. So as I hear a song that I like, I hit the heart, and it sort of kind of relearns, each week. Every time I do that, I guess it changes the algorithm and it knows what I like. So find one of those streaming services that has the recommendations, and they all kind of do a version of that. But that's been a big thing because they're really good and they're pretty accurate. And somehow in that discovery, I'll find something that I had never heard, a little lick or an idea, a melody or something, and I get reignited. So that's been a big thing. The last thing, and I've talked about this in lots of videos on lots of topics, but is stop comparing yourself to other people. And when it comes to inspiration, you have to remember that that the relationship you have with your guitar needs to be a personal one. It's a very intimate one between you and the instrument. That's it. And that's really the most important connection. You can't be worrying about how it's going to sound to somebody else's ears, or what so-and-so is going to think about it, or comparing yourself to something that you've seen online. That's very easy to do. I find myself doing that a lot, where I see or hear somebody playing, I think, I got so far to go before I can do that. It's just that just sort of defeats you, and then you're missing the love affair, and you have to rekindle that love affair. And sometimes it's just reminding yourself that the connection between you and the guitar is intimate. It's not this performance thing. I mean, yes, it's a tool that helps you play and express yourself, but it's also a very personal thing. That's why the guitar, I think, is like the most perfect instrument, because you hold it next to you. It's very, very personal in that way. So try and fall back in love with it that way. And it's just a matter of shifting the way that you think about it. You know, don't think of it as something that you have to show off or impress somebody else with. You just have to love it yourself. That's why you got into it in the first place. I hope that's why you got into it. And that's what will make it, you know, last and prolong. So hopefully between those three things, those three topics, something in that sparked an idea in you, and it will help reignite some of that inspiration. And just remember that everybody goes through dry spells. It's a very normal thing. And you just have to kind of get back on the horse and just realize it's still out there. The guitar is always going to be there waiting for you. And if you can have a deadline, that's the best thing, because you got to force that inspiration sometimes. All right, so hopefully that's been helpful. Leave a comment and let me know any of the things that you've been able to do to get out of dry spells. That's always helpful when we share that stuff. All right, we'll see you in the next video.